Ladies,
Very cool image, man.
live Monday night. I am your host, the Groovinator, aka Adam of raidersofthelostflicks.com. I'm here with my co-host, who's trying really hard not to choke on his dinner, Flair.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the show. I'd like to welcome Alan too.
Yeah, I'm joining our special guest, Alan. This is the first time he's been on his channel. I just met him today. We just made friends on Facebook, and we've been chatting all day long and having some really super cool discussions. I can't wait till we bring some of that to this channel, but I'm glad to have you on here. It's kind of a last-minute decision to have him, so I didn't announce it. I'm sorry I didn't give you a proper entrance, but Alan, why don't you tell us a little bit about what you do and what your brand is, man?
Well, this started, I don't know if either of you have ever seen the Ghostbusters remake, the reboot they did.
Seen it twice.
This all started with that because I have no problem with the idea of a female Ghostbuster, but they turned the movie into a lecture, rammed it down our throats. They made the one male character, the person who was supposed to be fulfilling the role that Janine did. From what I understand, the guy was an idiot, or at least the character was. It's just, when you're watching entertainment, when you're watching a movie or a TV show, you're looking to enjoy yourself. You're looking to have fun doing it. Hollywood spends too much time lecturing us, you ask me. You don't watch, like, for example, Star Wars or Star Trek. You don't watch that to get some kind of lecture. I mean, you have now, I don't know if either of you is a Green Lantern fan. We now have a new Green Lantern coming up. Black character. I have no problem with the idea of a black character. My problem is this. If you've ever read anything in Green Lantern, basically one of those rings, when it chooses somebody, it chooses them because they're worthy to have the ring. Because the ring believes that they could do a job as a lantern and do a good job. This character, if I've heard the story correctly, steals the ring. As that goes, why would you have the character steal a ring? Because it won't work if they steal it, probably. And two, I'm trying to figure out how to... Wouldn't that be, in some sense, kind of racist to say that? I mean, it's not really... Okay, so we have these black characters. You can't do it otherwise. Not very nice. And
that's no bueno to me.
Yeah, and my other thing is this. If you're going to give us this kind of stuff, if you're going to be trying to do these things, why not give us a new character? Why have you got to do it with something that's already in existence? Why can't the writers give us something new? What are they afraid of?
Got to dominate that hill that was previously built by somebody else.
Yeah. And pardon me, but when you've got fans who are, how do you say this, used to a series, who've been, say, reading a book for years or watching the movies in a series for years, and you start playing games like that, the fans are going to go, why would I want to watch this? Or why would I want to read this? Why would I want to spend my money on this? Where's the good in that? I mean, pardon me, viewers are supposed to enjoy themselves, but if you're making entertainment, if you're a capitalist, you're looking to make money if you're making entertainment. And what they're doing, if you ask me, is not going to make money.
Well, you look at their running what they've been doing to comics, and they've just been driving them into the ground.
Yeah,
that's my point. From orbit. I mean, I can remember when I was a kid, comics would sell millions of copies.
Yeah.
Now they're lucky to sell 100,000.
Yeah,
and that's a big run. And I'm a fan of yours. I have been, I'm a part of your Facebook group when I'm on Facebook. I really want to, support your vision and the artists that you represent, because I see you guys talking quite a bit, and I really appreciate that about you guys, that you are individual, you are unique, and you have great ideas. You just need that funding to get going. And if I can encourage anybody to help you guys out, I have been pointing fingers at you, going, hey, these guys have some great dreams. Let's try to get them going. So
Yes.
I truly appreciate you guys and what you're
Thank
doing.
you very much. That's appreciated. It's very
I
much
think it's a
appreciated.
perfect segue to go into our first topic, which is James Bond's No Time to Die delay is reportedly costing the studios around $1 million per month in interest.
Pardon me 1 second.
Oh, no problem. We've kind of briefly talked about this on this show before. I guess tonight was probably, we've been kind of holding off for the perfect James Bond show. And just with the combination of Sean Connery passing away and the fact that this is happening tonight, just kind of happens to be, this is going to be the James Bond show. So, and we've just been introduced to Alan's cat. So, hello, kitty.
Yes, Spark. As you see the white right there.
Very cute kitty.
It's his pointer.
Yeah. Well, on the Bond thing, I mean, God rest him, Connery just passed away. The man was the best known James Bond.
And we're going to talk about Connery a little bit more too after we get this out of the way.
But I haven't heard too much about this movie we have coming out. I mean, I haven't seen any of the Bond stuff in a while. It just kind of went downhill.
Yeah, I mean, I think Skyfall was a high point. I mean, okay, let's back it up to Casino Royale, which is really the first of the reboot after Pierce Brosnan, which we all like Pierce Brosnan as James Bond. We just didn't like his last outing. It was a bad movie. I mean, all Bonds have had a bad movie. Usually it's the last one they do. Always winds up being the worst one. I was talking with one of my Facebook groups today to somebody about that. But so we bring in Daniel Craig, and this is the new gritty James Bond. And this is kind of something I want to bring up too. It's like this is a James Bond that's trying to chase the Jason Bourne formula.
Yeah.
Because I think they saw Jason Bourne like, oh, these movies are making a ton of money. Those Americans, those Yanks, they got their own spy thriller thing now. Even though it's not really a spy thriller, it kind of comes off like that. You know what I mean? So Casino Royale is the gritty James Bond. Then we do what was the next one after that? That was
it was Casino Royale, and then what's the one where he's down in Argentina?
That's the one. I can't even remember the name of it. That's how forgettable it really is. It was not one of us three can remember the name of that James Bond movie. Somebody in the chat will tell us soon, I'm sure. But that one was not very good. It was not one of the original stories. But then they did Skyfall. Skyfall is a pretty decent movie if you don't look at it in the fact that it is 100% exactly The Dark Knight. So, and then Spectre was good for about the first 20 minutes. You watch that opening scene where they're in Mexico City. That was a lot of fun. After they get out of Mexico City, it's kind of forgettable. Actually, it's really forgettable. They introduced Blofeld. Sorry, spoilers if you haven't seen it yet. And they kind of bungled that whole reveal that Christoph Waltz was Blofeld. Like, we all knew that was going to come. It's kind of like one of those J.J. Abrams style reveals.
Quantum of Solace.
Quantum of Solace. That's the one. Yeah.
Yes. That was the one after.
That one wasn't very good. So
it was just too ecological. It was like beating you over the head with the Green Warrior bullshit.
Like I said, it was a lecture.
Yeah,
it's a lecture, and also it's like with Daniel Craig's run, it's like been a swing and a miss, and a swing and a miss, swing and a hit, swing and a miss. Probably about equal misses than hits. Yeah.
I thought Casino Royale was probably the best of the lot. Because
it had its moments. I liked I liked the story pacing. I wasn't crazy about Daniel Craig, but I will concur it's a good movie. It had a great villain. Mads Mikkelsen is a great villain.
With Batista as the henchman. He didn't come across very well in that.
Not really, yeah. So it's been a rocky climb with that. And also, this is a franchise, and I was talking with this about Alan earlier. The problem with James Bond right now is it is a franchise that is ashamed of its own beginnings.
Yeah.
It's always trying to mask that. It's always trying to hide it.
The problem is you couldn't make any of those movies now.
So they're always trying to make James Bond something that it is not. They're trying to replace an old audience with a new audience.
Well, what we were discussing last week with the Twitterati is they're trying to cater to a group of individuals that will not spend money on on any franchise because they are the arbiters of what is right and wrong. They just want to point fingers more than they want to actually spend money on a franchise.
That's what aggravates us the most. The fact that it's always agenda over story every single time. It's
well, look at how they tried to cancel Connery. I mean, he wasn't. The news hadn't broke for an hour, and the Twitterati were trying to cancel him because he was a misogynist.
Oh yeah, because he can't defend himself.
And to me, that's just the most utter worst form of garbage you could ever do because I'm sorry, Sir Sean Connery was a man I would watch read the phone book because he would. Yeah. I mean, I'm sorry. I am a huge Tom Clancy fan. I love the books. I hated Hunt for Red October, other than Sam Neill and Sean Connery. I own that movie for those two people being the actors that they are. And you know what? I watched The Rock because of Sean Connery. He was one of those gentlemen that you knew what you were going to get, and he would act the hell out of even a bad part.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
his character in Highlander was a classic.
Absolutely. Good evening, Leo Red.
Leo Red's in the house. Hey, Leo Red. Glad you could enjoy us. Can we all have a moment of silence for Leo Red's dinner? I was talking to him earlier about some business-related stuff, and he's like, hey, I just dropped my whole floor. I'm like, oh, man. And then I'm like, wait, was it Italian beef? I'm like, if it's Italian beef, it's okay. If it's anything else, I'm sorry. Sorry, it's a really inside joke. But
say something about Bond.
Yeah.
It's just you couldn't make any of those movies anymore, unfortunately, because James Bond, if you look back at the books, you look back at the movies, Bond was not necessarily a very nice man. He was violent. He killed people. He was what they would call these days a sexist. He took advantage of those women. He charmed them. Whatever. He wanted to, do what he did. And most of that these days you wouldn't see. I mean, it's like, I don't know if either of you is a Mel Brooks fan.
Absolutely. Mel Brooks.
You know Blazing Saddles, yes?
I'm sorry, say again?
You know Blazing Saddles, yes?
Oh, absolutely.
Well, I'll simply ask you, could Blazing Saddles be made now?
Nope.
No. I will add a modifier to that. Hell fucking no.
Yeah.
Because even Mel Brooks says that a lot of his movies could not be made in today's day and age, and comedy is dead.
Well, the other thing I'll argue with Blazing Saddles is his movie is not politically incorrect because, in my opinion, if you equally make fun of everybody in the same movie, you're not singling anybody out. You're not being prejudiced. He was making fun of himself. He's making fun of other people. He took the joke and reversed it if you hear the entirety of the joke, but all they hear is the one N-word, not the context by which it's being used, and then everybody just freaks out and reacts.
Yeah, look, one of my favorites in the movie. I mean, the black character, the sheriff in that movie, he's a great character. He was acted by an extraordinarily funny man. He did a great job with a good script. And my favorite scene in that whole movie, God forgive me, is still when he shows up at the beginning and they go, the sheriff is a, and he gets bounced out by the bell and whatever else. And they finally see him and they realize he's black and they're like, what? And meanwhile, if you ask me, some of the best lines in the movie, the actor's body language was perfect. He played the part wonderfully.
Well, you look at Spaceballs.
Yeah.
The line, she's Druish?
Yeah, I love that.
Druish?
That's my favorite line of that movie. funny. She doesn't look Jewish. She just looks straight faced at the camera, and he says that's only a joke that he can get away with. And in Living, I would argue that the TV show in Living Color did the exact same type of jokes. They made fun of everybody. The whole joke was that everybody stereotypes are designed to be made fun of.
Fire Marshal Bill.
The same thing. Yeah.
I love Fire Marshal Bill. If you can't laugh at yourself, what good is it?
Well, the point is if you're going to if you are just singling out one type of group of people, then you could say, okay, maybe that show's not politically correct. Maybe it could be considered racist. But if you're equally making fun of everybody, that's the whole point of Mel Brooks' movie Blazing Saddles, the fact that it's not a racist movie. It's a movie that's making fun of racism itself.
Blazing Saddles is making fun of everybody.
It's making fun of everybody. It's making fun of absolutely everyone. I don't think there's anybody that they left out. Everything is to be considered a joke, and that's what makes stuff funny. Is you have to exaggerate the humor in order for the joke to land. You can't do that anymore.
Well, but again, that's where some a man like Mel Brooks, even Jerry Seinfeld, has come out and said, comedy, you cannot do comedy anymore. And it's a sad commentary on our society that the most humorous guys we collectively that we know can't make a movie or a TV series, a sketch comedy series, because somebody might get their panties in a bunch. And
you might hurt. God forgive me saying it this way, but you might hurt someone's feelings.
I have a shirt that says "fuck your feelings," and that's how I feel.
The only thing I can say is they're afraid of offending. Everyone's afraid of offending someone. If you use the wrong line, if you do something, somebody's going to say, "Oh, you're a racist, you're a sexist, you're whatever," and all Hollywood does these days, or at least for the most part, is they throw shit at a wall and they'll see what sticks. They use the same names for the movies. They use the same concepts because they're afraid of trying anything new. Because I understand being afraid of losing money, but how are you earning money by giving people garbage?
And the sad fact is when you try to please everyone, you wind up pleasing nobody.
Absolutely.
You see it over and over and over again. But back to James Bond, this No Time to Die thing. I'm not going to read this entire article because it's mostly statistics and numbers. But what's happening is they've delayed the movie so many times that they're losing money in interest. That the investors that made the movie, they're having to pay money on that interest each month that they don't release it. And
yes, because the investors put so much forward and they're expecting to back. I worked for an accountant for a number of years. I understand what you're talking about. Those investors have got to be pissed.
They're pissed, and they apparently can't make any money releasing this to a streaming platform. So,
well, yeah, because they've eliminated that opportunity, and you read the under the headline, Apple's offered them $400 million. I mean, who's the idiot here?
And when you can't break even on $400 million on your movie, it's like, how much did they spend on this thing? And I think that's our next problem is these overinflated budgets.
Absolutely.
Man, I look at it like this. You ever seen the original Halloween?
Absolutely.
Then you know what I'm about to say, which is, or do you know any, or have you ever seen the stories about what happened when they were making that?
Most of them, yeah. I have like two collector's versions of the.
Okay, well then you know that when they were making that movie, and a lot of people don't know about this. You probably do, I imagine, which is that all the leaves they were using, they had 3 bags of leaves, as I recall, and they were using the same leaves every time that they had to make it look like it was fall in that California town, and all of them, all the actors and the staff would be running around after every scene, grabbing those leaves back up and putting them back in a plastic bag. Halloween did not have a big budget. Halloween had a small budget. I think that if I remember, he didn't expect it to go anywhere. And then the movie exploded.
Yeah, it was simplicity. And that's kind of one of the things I've always liked about Carpenter. He's one of my favorite directors is he works with simplicity. He makes those things work. I'll tell you one thing. One of the best compliments I can say about Halloween. I grew up in Illinois. I spent a good chunk of I've been all over the world, but I spent a good chunk of my life in Illinois. For the longest time, I had no idea that movie was shot in California. That's a compliment. Yeah. Now, you watch Rob Zombie's Halloween, which is also supposed to take place in Haddonfield, Illinois, and it feels like a trailer park outside of Los Angeles. That is not Illinois. Okay, I did not feel like Illinois at all. But the movie Halloween felt like it was shot in Illinois, and it even used Illinois-style names. I had mentioned this on one of our Halloween streams. Haddonfield could have been Plainfield. Smith's Grove could have been Downers Grove. You know what I mean? It was. They used actual names that sound like Illinois. So even John Carpenter, who didn't live in Illinois, researched Illinois enough to make it look like Illinois. And you appreciate those little efforts that they put into especially when you get older and you see how lazy some of these big budget movies are. You appreciate the effort that was put into making a budget fucking work like they did. So
absolutely. I mean, to mention something before I forget on what I was talking about before about Ghostbusters, they're doing another movie, yes?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, did you both know that they also said that movie is going to be completely ignored?
I heard it
behaving like it's not part of the continuity.
Okay, so they're not gonna make the 2016 movie a continuity. Yeah, it shouldn't be. It should be pretty much just.
No, but my point is just you use so much money to make something. If you don't, it doesn't matter how much you spend on it. If it doesn't have, what's the right word? Quality, I guess. It's not going to work. You can spend all the money you want. If it's not something people want to watch, they're not going to watch it.
Well, and what I have the issue that also they're going to make it, and then they're going to try to browbeat you into going and watching it. Oh, well, you're an istism.
Istophobe, yeah.
If you don't go and support our movie, but yet you're lecturing me and you're making it so that I don't want to go see this movie.
Mm-hmm.
Why?
I get so tired of these studios saying that you have to answer the call of the almighty logo. Like, you must worship the logo. You must support this logo like it's a sports team. No, I support the movies that I'm interested in. I can honestly say I'm already not interested in No Time to Die because look at all the bungled marketing that they've done with this so far. Okay, they've already announced that Shonda Lynch is, potentially replacing James Bond as 007. So that was already there. We've already seen the Stay in the Lane trailer. Stay in your own lane, James Bond. We've already seen Daniel Craig going out there and bringing in Phoebe Waller-Bridge to rewrite dialogue so that he can adapt to the Me Too era. It's already been tinkered with so much. And this right here is just the icing on the cake, the delays because of the pandemic.
Hollywood's become too much about politics.
There's no way this movie is going to make any money. I don't see it. You can't release this next year and expect people to have the same interest in it as they barely do now.
Well, it's the same thing that happened in New Mutants. Even though it got released, it had been pushed off so many times.
That's one thing you can say about 2020 is New Mutants finally came out.
Even 21 Bridges. I remember when that was filmed, and that got pushed off for years.
21 Bridges was a real disappointment. I was excited about that movie, and it had no substance. I mean, just nothing.
That's I remember discussing it with you. It's sad because
stellar cast, no script.
Yeah.
A lot of what we've had coming out this year has been crap.
Yeah.
Well,
even before the pandemic hit, I saw maybe 2 movies worthy of note that I would consider rewatching. But that's not necessarily that they're the best movies I've seen in a long time. It's just that so much of what I saw up until March was so amazingly bad. And I just kept saying, well, maybe it's January. Well, maybe it's February. Oh, shit, now it's March, and they're still coming out with this stuff. What's going on?
Well, it's like 2020 took the It can't get any worse. And it's like, hold my beer. Here
one up. Yeah, it just keeps one up in itself. Absolutely, but I don't see how they can get this movie into the green. I really don't, because all the money that they've spent on marketing already. I mean,
I don't know how they can get any of these movies that they've pushed off. Black Widow, all these movies that they're pushing off. How are they going to make a profit on them? How?
Well, that's just it. Like with No Time to Die, not only does the investors lose out on this deal, and they have every right to be pissed, but us Joe average public being locked down by the pandemic, we're suffering too. We can't consume this product even if we wanted to.
Yeah, Leo, I didn't go out and see it because honestly, I was pretty poor at the time. So, but yeah, Sonic. I'm sorry, Jim Carrey and Sonic was one of the highlights of 2020.
It was refreshingly fun, but it wasn't anything to. I mean, I wouldn't want to go buy a Blu-ray of it or anything. I mean, I enjoyed it. I gave it a good review. I didn't give it a great review, but it was. Put it this way: for a video game movie, I was genuinely entertained by it.
Well, let me put it to you this way: it was better than Final Fantasy: The Spirits Within. You want to talk about someone who was angry?
As I told you last week, the reason most video games are as bad as they are is because most video games in general are based on movies, ideas and things that they get from movies. So when you take a movie and make it into a video game, and then take the video game and make it into a movie, you're essentially making a copy of a copy.
Yeah.
So if it comes off like a bad, watered-down action flick, it's because that's pretty much what it is. It's going to remind you of other things that have done that already better. The games are meant to be immersed in. You're supposed to play these characters, not just watch them carry out the plot of the game on the screen.
Yeah. Well, and it as you said, it's immersion, but it's also the fact that you have your. It's like reading a book versus watching a movie. You have your mental voice that you put into the story that makes it so makes or breaks it for you. You divorce that, and sometimes it's not as good, and it falls flat because of the writers that don't understand the story, don't want to put the time into it. Because honestly, it's almost like these Bond movies have just become a rubber stamp.
Support our almighty logo.
Here's 2 months. Here's 2 years. We got to put out a new Bond. Oh, it's 3 years. We need a new Bond. And
we're expected to watch it because it's got the Bond, because it's got the label on it. Like you said, it's the same thing. Forgive me, like what happened with Disney and Star Wars.
Logo worship, yeah.
Or it's member berries. Well, you love this title. You will pay money to see it. And I saw the first Star Wars and went, I ain't paying to see the next one.
I have a question for Alan, actually. If you were okay, so they're delaying this movie until sometime next year. We don't really even know the exact date. Probably won't be summer. It'll probably be earlier. Do you think there's any scenario where they will actually go back and reshoot some shots and maybe recut this and make it a little bit better so it'll make more money, or are they completely out of bread to spend on something like this?
I don't think they're going to go back and change it. I mean, I don't know, but like I've said already, based on Hollywood's attitudes, they don't care what their fans think.
No, where they will actually go back.
I mean, they couldn't care. They couldn't care less. They think, like I said, it's the same thing with the Disney Star Wars movies. It has a label on it. They looked at it and said, "Oh, this is Star Wars. We're going to buy this from Lucas. We're going to make a shitload of money on it because it's Star Wars. People are going to watch it because it's Star Wars." If you give someone crap, they're going to see crap, and they're not going to want to have anything to do with it.
Yeah, Richard Grader, this is welcome back, by the way. This is that James Bond stream that we promised a couple weeks ago. We said, well, this is going to be the one because we've got Sean Connery, which we're going to talk about here shortly, and then also I wanted to get this out of the way because this is something that's just been puzzling me. It's not just James Bond that's doing this either. It's all the movies that have been delayed. Black Widow, Wonder Woman 1984. I don't even care about either one of those movies anymore because I no longer care. It's been delayed so many times I've lost interest. You know what I mean? It's like the way that kind of works with the marketing is you have to put the idea in their head so that they can consume it before they have a second thought about it. If you've already spent the money to put the ads out there and then you just take it back, you've abandoned the audience. It's too late. You spent the money. Your chance is gone. I mean, some people are going to show up for James Bond no matter what, but I don't want to see him, be berated for, who he was or what he isn't, or constantly being told that he's not doing something right. I mean, I did not like that trailer one bit. I didn't like what they were doing with the character. I already didn't like Daniel Craig, so I kind of just don't care about this current James Bond. If they were to drop it on a streaming platform right now, I would review it for the sole purpose of being able to make a video about it. But as far as my enthusiasm for it, I don't think James Bond can exist in this day and age. I really don't. Yeah. I don't see how he can. And like you said, Alan, until Hollywood unfucks itself from this.
Maybe a better way to say it is James Bond, as we knew him, can't exist in this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Bond was a great character, like I said, but you could never have the James Bond you had, pardon me, for example, in Goldfinger in modern movies.
And that's my favorite Bond movie, Goldfinger.
Here's the question: could they even make the Brosnan Bond flicks in today's day and age?
No.
And that is a sad commentary because I truly believe he was one. He was suave, he was debonair, he was everything that Bond should be.
I can give you a good example right off the top of my head, which is The Living Daylights. Because the way that the female character is portrayed in that, they'd see it as they would see it as that they were showing the woman as being weak or something of that sort.
Problematic. That's what
the people we are talking about would be upset with that. I don't want to say they'd be throwing a fit, but they'd be upset about it, and they wouldn't like that it was happening.
The Twitterati would be throwing a fit because. Remember, even when Madonna did the character that I'm a strong feminist. I'm a sword a sword mistress and all this different stuff, and they tossed a fit at that moment at that point, and it hasn't gotten any better. It hasn't changed, and it's sad.
At what point do you continue to make James Bond movies to where I feel like we're already there? You're making James Bond movies that don't feel like James Bond movies anymore. It's Bond in name only.
These haven't been James Bond in a long time.
No. Probably, what was the last good one be? GoldenEye, maybe?
GoldenEye was, I like GoldenEye quite a bit.
GoldenEye felt like a spy movie. Everything else was just an action movie.
I love the tank chase. Him popping out, straightening his tie.
He totally knew James Bond. Like he was totally embraced that character right away. Like right away, Most of the James Bond movies
isn't a spy anymore.
That's the other thing is I never. That's why when they were announcing that maybe it might be Tom Hardy doing James Bond, I thought, well, this would only work in a scenario where James Bond plays another character. Like I haven't seen him actually play a different person since he was St. John Smythe and what was it, A View to a Kill? You know what I mean? And that was barely a performance there. I want to see a James Bond where he puts on disguises and pretends to be somebody else, like does actual spy stuff. But we never get that.
Like I said, Bond isn't a spy anymore.
Yeah, it's just an action hero.
Yeah.
It's pretty much it's
an action adventure movie. It's not a spy thriller anymore.
Whole reason the early movies worked was they were spy thrillers.
Well, and they made you think. They engaged the audience. They drew them in. They did they did what a good author does, what a good movie, because let's look at Mel Brooks. The man knew how to draw you in, make you look at yourself
Absolutely.
and laugh at yourself, and then laugh along with everything, all the jokes that he was, you look at.
Oh, he'll be back.
Yeah,
Looks like he lost his
that was
internet connection.
strange.
I want to acknowledge this comment right here. Bill Leavitt says, "Doesn't it suck to watch classics and stop to say you couldn't do that today?" Yes, I had that same discussion with my mother, and we both grew up watching movies. We talk about movies all the time. Big surprise there. Somebody in my family talks about movies all the time.
I had that conversation with my wife more than once.
I told her, I says, you got to stop thinking like that, because every time you say that, they win. You should be able to enjoy. You should be able to enjoy the old things that you like, and not
of
measure
course. You should
everything
be able
by
to enjoy them
today's
greatly.
ridiculously unattainable standards. It's
Like I said already, it's one of the reasons I founded Doom Scholar Studios, because we need that again. People want that.
Yeah, it's why I was glad to have you on the show. I support anybody that wants to move away from this nonsense and just have some fun again and focus on escapist entertainment. That is definitely what we need. We're not getting enough of that. There's a void in everybody's life, and there's no place for people to stop and go and decompress and escape off into it. We had that when Star Wars first came out. That came out at a time where things were getting a little too heated and a little too political, and those movies that came out in the 70s kind of got away from that. That's why Death Wish and Star Wars, a lot of movies like that, were well received. Taxi Driver, because they were escapist entertainment. You know what I mean? They were coming out at a time when people needed something refreshingly different, other than to just be constantly talked down to and told that these things are wrong and that things is wrong, and you're tired of a movie replacing a storyline with "this is the moral lesson of the week," and knowing is half the battle. So.
I can think of 2 other movies right off the top of my head. I will ask if could be made now, or at least as they were made, be made now, which are Army of Darkness and the original Die Hard. Could you make those as they were now? I don't think so.
Sorry about it.
Oh, no problem.
It happens, man.
The StreamYard, my browser locked up for some absolutely weird ass reason.
It happens.
That happens. God knows.
It was rather intriguing.
So we were just talking about, I don't know how much you heard there, but just does it, it suck to watch classics and stop and say you couldn't do that today. We do. I think we do that too much, and I think we need to maybe stop doing that. Stop thinking like that.
I think we need to stop thinking negatively and promote a positive, as Alan does with Doom Scholars. You really do promote, the positives of artistry in these genres, and that
point behind the company.
Exactly.
I want to do that again.
And I think that's going to attract a lot of attention when it hits, because man, I think people are out there dying for good quality content.
Oh yeah. I've had people say to me, I can't watch anything. I can't, the people I know who were big comic fans. I used to be a huge Batman fan. And now, meanwhile, they're playing games with Bruce, and people don't want to read this garbage anymore. DC is putting itself into a death spiral. Marvel is, well, let's not get into that. There's no point.
Marvel hit a wall and continued on for a while.
It's just, where's the fun in? Oh, the site. Okay.
Yeah, I figured I'd pull your site up since you were kind of giving it a really good plug there. I thought that this would be a good time to throw it out there for people that are just sick of it all. Check this out. I'm going to put the link up too.
Look at the Facebook group too. We have a whole lot of people there, and I will tell you now, We have our first project underway, actually. We're doing an online graphic series called The Last Survivors. It's actually based on a book series that I co-authored with Declan Finn. It's another one of the, gentleman who's on Facebook. Known him a long time. And basically, imagine if the world ended because a man made a mistake, or at least that's what people think happened. We have World War III happened on April 1st of 2090. The April Fool's War, they call it. And no one knows what happened. The story they have so often is that, oh, the psychiatrists were doing a test. What the reaction would be if North Korea attacked the United States. And supposedly, according to what the biggest story is, someone somehow got through security and attacked Korea, launched a missile towards Korea, and that started all this. No one knows for sure in that universe. It's not a pleasant place. I mean, our two main characters are a man named Kyle Elson, the last assassin of last living member of a guild of assassins. And the other is a man named Kevin Anderson, a U.S. government agent who watched his fiancée and his team die before his eyes. And then Kevin decided to enforce his own form of term limits and went back and killed the men responsible for it. And they decided we can't have him around, and they put him out in San Francisco because most people don't even know it's there anymore in that universe. And we go from there. The strangest thing about that, though, is still this. We invented a whole bunch of concepts, a whole bunch of stuff for that. Some drugs, some gangs, etc. And we wrote this more than, I think it's like 12 or 15 years ago, because I have been married 10 years, and this was before I met Annie, my wife. We created this drug in this thing called pixie dust. Nasty stuff. It was supposed to be, in their universe, a painkiller. And then a guy showed up at a hospital with no nose. And meanwhile, after we wrote this bloody thing, Crocodile shows up in Russia, which basically does exactly what we wrote.
Oh, man.
2 years after we wrote it.
I've had friends of mine that have had that happen to them, too.
Yeah, some drugs and stuff, too. Some of the drugs, and also there's another one, too, which I'm not going to go into Wicked 60 now. But that, too, and also one of the gangs we created showed up. It's really strange. Annie's commented that I should write us winning the lottery. It's weird.
Yeah, one of my favorite authors, his name is David Weber.
Okay.
I love his work, and he wrote a postscript to one of the novels that he wrote that he thought of the absolute worst thing anybody could do, blow up kill kids and do it intentionally. And then Timothy McVeigh went, and as his book was in post, in post writing, it was in editing,
Yeah.
and it was being readied for distribution.
Yes.
Timothy McVeigh blew up the Murrah Federal Building, and he writes a beautiful postscript about, how people can be ugly and evil, but we still need to keep hope. And I thought that was really neat that he went back and he thought of the worst thing that somebody could do, and then somebody went and does it, and he's like, oh my God, how could you be so vile?
Yeah.
Nothing justifies that. And it's one of those things that somehow humanity loves to meet our low expectations.
Unfortunately so. And to plug myself again for a second, if anybody's interested in that series, books are Codename Winterborn and Codename Unsub. They're on Amazon.
Rock on, man.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Nothing hurts more than when you come up with a concept and then you see somebody else run with it and you don't know how they got there. I had something similar like that happen about 10 years ago. I started working on a script it was going to be a parody movie of all of the formula cop shows that were coming out at the time, like CSI and, all of them. I mean, every single one of those shows, CSI Miami and Criminal Minds and everything, Law and Order, everything. It was going to be a parody of all of them. It was going to be starring Jim Carrey, and I started actually writing the script. And then, lo and behold, a couple years ago, Angie Tribeca is doing the exact same thing on the oh god, what channel is it that has all the comedy shows? One of those channels, but yeah, Angie Tribeca is exactly that. It's a parody of Formula Cop shows because I went through a period of time where I was watching those, and I'm like, my god, I'm watching the same thing. Everything is the same thing. It's like a 5-beat parameter. Somebody says 5 words, then another person says 5 words, then back to the other person. Like I can almost predict what's going to happen. It like starts to look like an algorithm after a while. And I thought, what if I took that and just turned it completely upside down and made a parody out of it? But it's too late for that now. I waited too long. I sat on it too long, and somebody else took that idea.
What Hollywood does.
Yeah. So that's what happened. But I wanted to mention too, I didn't make a video about Sean Connery because I don't really do well with like death, and I don't feel like I can ever say the right amount of things.
I don't think anyone does.
I just figured I'd get us together, and we're all fans of movies. We all like James Bond, but we also like Sean Connery, the actor, because we were talking about these movies off air today too. And I thought, we need to save some of this for the show. And Sean Connery is more than James Bond. You know what I mean? Just way more. And I think. I don't know. We'll go around and we'll say our favorite movies, and then maybe just say some things and invite the audience to say some things too. But I would say that my favorite non-Bond performance by Sean Connery is his role in The Untouchables. It's Bugsy Malone. I absolutely loved him in that movie. I believe he did actually get the Oscar for supporting actor for that movie.
Me, it's between that and Ramirez and Highlander.
A lot of Highlander fans in my circle. Yeah. For sure.
Untouchables is fantastic, though. He does a great job in that part. He really does.
The Rock, Hunt for Red October.
Oh, God, The Rock is great. I just watched that last week. I watched The Rock last week. You just reminded me that I watched that a week ago.
Yeah, I mean, I've got it in my pile of movies back here.
I was really sorry to not see more Nicolas Cage and Sean Connery team-ups. I thought that would have been.
Yeah, they worked together remarkably well. But then again, that's the caliber of actor Sean Connery was.
Yeah.
That you could put a tree stump next to him, and yes, Captain Marvel, I'm looking at you. And he could have made that movie better. And I'm sorry, I want to fire RPGs at that movie.
Sean Connery was also famous. Go ahead, Alan. So you said Highlander, and then Flair. What was your favorite Sean Connery movie?
My problem is it was usually whatever one Sean Connery was in at the time, because I truly
you can't pick one, huh?
I can't pick just one because, like I said, I would watch
Flair. There could be only one.
That's true.
Connery was a very capable actor.
There's a layup. I had to go with it.
I would watch that man read a phone book because he would literally put the same power into his acting if he was doing that as he would any role. And I want to fight. I really do. No, I don't. I'm too tired.
He's too tired. He worked all day. He got no energy to fight.
You win. Here, I'll lay down. You can put your foot on my chest and fight, okay? We'll go there.
Sean Connery SNL skits. It was even funny when other people were making fun of Sean Connery. I know which bit you're talking about. You're talking about the Alex Trebek skit. That's classic SNL right there. I loved it. I did. He also made some poor business decisions too, but the guy never suffered for income. He lived in a castle. Like he spent most of his time living in a castle. So, but nothing wrong with that at all. But he was originally approached to play Gandalf in the Lord of the Rings trilogies. Now, I'm not really a big fan of those films, as I've mentioned before. Fantasy is not really my thing. I'm not really into the elves and the wizards and all that kind of stuff. But those movies were well made. I will say that. Okay, even if I'm not a fan of that genre, they were very well done. They were very well received. They made a ton of money. They won multiple awards. If he would have just taken that part, he would have made so much money off the back end on that. Well,
deal. I'm going to say this. I'm looking at his portfolio resume, and Rising Sun. If I had to pick one movie that I
haven't seen in a long time,
it's a very good movie.
It's underrated. Him and Wesley Snipes, excellent movie. It because I lived in Japan for a while, and it really brought a lot of. He brought a lot of dimension to that character, and just reminded me of so many people I met over there in Japan. So, just that I truly feel that's one of, if I had to pick an underrated movie of his that a lot of people don't think of, that would be my pick.
I can agree with that. Yeah.
He's done so many, because it's almost Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade.
I can't call that one underrated, because he was very well known for that.
The dog.
That movie was brilliant. Yeah, and it was neat to have him play his dad, because the original Indiana Jones was conceived by Spielberg and George Lucas wanting to do a James Bond movie, and it kind of led into them coming up with the Indiana Jones instead.
A Bridge Too Far. He's in A Bridge Too Far. I mean,
yeah,
the quality of his resume stands on its own 2 feet.
Connery knew how to. I'm not even sure how to say this. I mean, since you mentioned The Last Crusade, one of the best lines out of him in that movie, he says, "How did you know she was German?" And Connery, without missing a beat, goes, "She talks in her sleep." And just the way he says it, the body language behind it, and the way he says it, it just makes the movie right there. It is so funny.
That is honestly one of my favorite Indiana Jones movies, because
it's really well made.
Because of the dynamic between Harrison Ford and Sean Connery, they're believable as the characters that they portray.
Dare I say it should have ended there? Like, that should have been the last one.
It would have been nice, because Kingdom of the Crystal Skull, as much as I like it, it's not a Indiana Jones movie.
You know what the sad thing is, Flair, is you never really get a good ending to any franchise, because if it makes a lot of money, they have to make another one.
Yeah.
Somehow, some way, they always find a way to make something else, and it's never quite what it was the last time, Although, like I said, The Last Crusade came out and surprised everybody after Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom. So, it's kind of a...
And you look at that article that I sent you about the other Bonds paying homage to Sean Connery, that without him, there would not be the franchise.
Right, he set the footprint. Yeah,
and I thought the quote from Pierce Brosnan was so on point, that he set the gold standard for what both an actor, a human being, and a Bond should be, and as we consider, Bond, Pierce Brosnan, one of the better Bonds, that he considered himself only a pale, a pale representation of Bond, and I thought that was a shocking quote of his. That I love Pierce Brosnan in GoldenEye. He brought such a great power to
Connery
but that's how much above and beyond Connery is as an actor and as someone who was a master of his craft.
Go ahead, Alan.
Just Connery, I don't want to say Connery was Bond, but Connery was Bond.
He was the first one, so he kind of had the rights on that one. It's kind of like when Harrison Ford first did Indiana Jones, and there was that argument a while back that, well, I don't want anybody else playing Indiana Jones. And as I'm older now, I think about that, and I'm like, well, I wouldn't want anybody else to play him either. It's like, why should
I didn't want anybody else to play Han Solo?
He kind of owned it and made it his own thing, and maybe that should be his thing to have. I don't think you want to, because damn well if somebody else takes it over, they're going to take all of the characteristics that people liked about the character and replace them with talking points.
Well, look at Alden Ehrenreich in Solo. I'm sorry, that was garbage compared to Harrison Ford.
What they did with Lando was a joke. They shouldn't have done it.
Now that you've opened that can of worms, Flair, we're going to go there because now that I got Alan here, I want to show off a little bit. But yeah, I actually kind of hate Solo more than The Last Jedi. As much as I dislike The Last Jedi and as much damage as it did to the Star Wars franchise, I can't say the movie was terribly boring. It was too frustrating to be boring. It made me angry, but the point is, it made me feel something. With Solo, I felt like I was getting gassed or something. I was so bored watching that movie. I never watched such a lifeless, dull husk of a product in my entire life. And those are things that I never associated with Star Wars before Solo, a Star Wars.
Like I said, the fact that they had Lando sleeping with anything that moved.
Yeah,
that didn't help
it's
either.
A kids movie, movie.
And a starship, and yeah,
it's a kids movie with space wizards in it. Oh.
Solo could have been something very good.
Could have at least been fun. Yeah,
like I said, it could have been fun. It could have been enjoyable. It could have been a lot of things, but just like I said, Hollywood likes to lecture.
Well, but it's also the fact that it's how many talentless hacks does it take to explode or to devastate a universe? And I hate saying that about Ron Howard, but he proved he could be as talentless as any other director, writer that has come before him or after him. And I highly respect the man for what he has accomplished in his life, but I would not hold Solo up as one of his accomplishments.
Let's see. Bill David said, "Did you ever see the South Park episode about the Indiana Jones and Crystal Skull?" No, I did not. I got to admit that I used to watch a lot more South Park, and then there came a time when I just kind of stopped watching TV. So it wasn't that I had anything against South Park. I've always liked it. I always appreciated what the show. Just not watching TV. I just stopped watching it. And I think
most of TV isn't worth watching these days.
South Park, I'll give them credit for this. They're kind of like the animated version of SNL, where they're using the current events and recycling them and making fun of them. But again, I don't want to be constantly reminded of the current events because the current events are frustrating enough to watch in the first place. But I did want to bring up, while we're talking about, I want to take it back to James Bond. I got in a discussion earlier about On Her Majesty's Secret Service, and that's one that they pretty much never play on the TV channels that recycle the James Bond movies over and over again. I actually had to watch that one on DVD. And I'd heard things about over the year, it's the worst one. It's worse. It's so bad. It's terrible. It's awful. I watched it. I will admit that George Lazenby is a terrible James Bond, but I don't find Her Majesty's Secret Service to be that terrible of a movie. I actually enjoy it.
It's not.
It's pretty good. Yeah.
People have a problem with it because Bond gets married. That's the issue.
But he got married in Casino Royale. They pretty much did the same story.
Well,
if I remember the book behind On Her Majesty's Secret Service correctly, when Blofeld kills Tracy, Bond kills him at the end of the book. If I remember correctly, he strangles Blofeld at the end of the book.
Yeah, he does, and that's Ian Fleming was not his version of Bond was not a polite, kind person, and
It's more like the Punisher. Yeah.
And neither was
he
Connery's.
he did it. It's kind of like the in Serenity, the black character that is the main protagonist, that's chasing the crew across the galaxy in in the Firefly movie.
The operative. Yeah.
He has a line about, I'm a zealot. I'll do any, I can justify anything because I truly believe in what I'm doing. And that's who Bond is. He is a zealot for the British Commonwealth. And there is no line he will not cross to protect the common person of Great Britain, the Commonwealth. And I think that nationalism, now that nationalism is a naughty word,
That's why
is
you can't do the Bond. That's part of it. Yeah. There's no
well, that's why you
nationalism.
can't really do Bourne either. That's why you haven't seen Bourne rebooted.
You know what the other problem is too, Flair, is that they can't seem to get a Bond that can balance the dark grittiness with the charisma. Like, you need to be charismatic when the character needs you to be. Then you also
The
need to be
scripts
dark
don't
and gritty.
help.
No,
Yeah.
the scripts are terrible. They get excessively worse. Yeah.
And Barbara Broccoli selling out, or however you say her last name, I'm sorry, she sold out to this idiocracy that we literally, she thinks she's doing the right thing according to her dad. It's like, no, you're not. No, you're not. Sit down, shut up, and make a Bond movie.
Unfortunately, not going to do that.
No, we're too far down that non-Primrose path. And
Yeah, there's too many good movies you couldn't make now.
Does it feel to me, as a writer, you're a writer, Alan, does it feel like this is what I feel like when I'm watching the movies? It's everything is like a roadmap. It's like they have a group of things that they want to happen in the movie, and all of the writing is just designed to get to those moments. And they just feel like it's just, well, in order for this to happen, we get to that.
It's pushed.
It's really lazy, man. And it's like
it's pushed.
Ugh.
They force it. It's a good story should, pardon the expression, a good story should flow.
It never has any kind of a vision
from one point to the next.
They don't have any kind of vision for it. It's just everything is just to get to this moment. Well, it's like the producer says, well, I want to have, an underwater battle here. I want to have a car chase over here on the side of a mountain, and I want to have, this guy fight a guy with a metal hand, and it's like it's just getting it's connect the dots.
You got to make it fit with the rest of the story.
I can't remember the author that I was reading. He talked about how his writing style, and he always wrote himself into a corner. He put his character, he would write himself into this corner so that he had to make a plot twist to get out of it. And for him, that was how he kept himself fresh, is that he would not do this, he couldn't do the same story over and over again, because he literally would have to think up a new twist to get out of that story. And so that made for great books. And I don't see even the adaptations, because I'm watching what's going on with the Wheel of Time. What Amazon is doing to the Wheel of Time. And I'm sitting here going, you are basically taking a diverse world and you're making it fit into this cookie cutter mold of check boxes. Oh, I've got an Asian. Oh, I've got a black person. Oh, I've got the quasi transgender non-binary person. And it just, I don't see the diversity of thought.
And then once you get all the check boxes ticked, you got this much left over to deliver your story.
Exactly. And that's what again.
Pardon me, but what story?
Yeah.
That's all you got. And the story is just, oh, by the way, they went here and they did this.
And again, that's where I plug Doom Scholars and Alan.
Yeah.
Is that
I won't call what they're giving us a story.
You guys give a great story, and I cannot tout you enough. I really can't.
Oh, canon movies after my own heart, man. I love them. I try to collect them. I buy anything with. Now, there's a logo I'll actually respect. If it has the canon sticker on there, I know it's going to be fun, bad, and a good time to watch.
Or Malibu Bay.
Malibu Bay, the sign of quality. Oh, Andy Sedaris. Oh, gosh. But I back to Connery again. I hate that I even have to do this stream where I'm talking about Sean Connery no longer being. I mean, he's 90. I mean, it was a lot harder when I had to deal with David Bowie passing away because it seemed like he was too young. But with 90, even so, he was in great shape all of his life. That guy hardly ever showed any sign of age.
Connery took care of himself.
When he turned 90, remember that picture that's out there? I'm like, he still looks like he did back in the 80s. What in the hell, the guy? What is he eating? It's like
Tom Selleck. I mean, good Lord, look at Tom Selleck. That man, he's only getting better with age.
Some people age better. Yeah. We're talking about you, Cynthia Rothrock. Call me, right? So.
Oh yes.
So we'll have you on the show. But if anybody else have any other questions for Alan or Flair and I think we're going to probably bring this one to a close. Hopefully, I don't have to do any more rest in peace streams this year. But
yes.
It's I think the hardest part about getting older is realizing you have to watch all of your heroes die. It really is the hardest. It's humbling. It's humbling. It really is.
By the way, to give folks one piece of trivia, since I thought of it because somebody mentioned about Blofeld and Jaws, and I was thinking of the other Jaws. To give your fans a laugh, if you've never seen the movie, the stuff they've done on the making of the original Jaws, one of the best, two best things in that are they named the shark as they were calling the shark after his lawyer. I can't think of the name. And my other favorite thing from that is still when they were talking about because they couldn't always get the thing working, and you'd hear from the back of the set, "The shark is not working. The shark is not working." Some of the best movies. No budget, no whatever, but they were incredible. And you have these movies these days that have a huge budget.
A budget constraint that would force you to be creative. Yeah, the budget constraints would force you to be creative. And I wish these studios would take it down, find some younger directors that are willing to work with those budgets. And that's why that's one of the most amazing things about horror is, and it's not that it's my favorite genre or anything. I'm a sci-fi guy, but the nice thing about horror is you can make something really grand with a very minute amount of money. It's a lot harder to do with sci-fi because you need visuals. But with horror, you can do a lot of creative things with nothing. And if you have the right...
One of the best things about Halloween is there's no blood in that movie.
No.
There's no blood.
No blood. No blood, just very subtle things that happen there.
Yep.
And another one that I would recommend too, a little bit more recent, is It Follows. That movie I thought was incredible and very low budget, very cutting edge. Like probably one of the most amazing things I'd seen in a long time.
I was really shocked watching Halloween. I watched it for the first time on our
experienced it with us, yeah.
And I was really blown away by how good it was. And
you only saw the fourth one. You haven't even seen the first one yet. So
I thought we watched the first one.
No, we watched Halloween 4, and then we watched Halloween 5. I wasn't able to watch the first Halloween because it wasn't available on YouTube for the customer.
I gotcha.
So,
but
even 4 was a lot better than some of the other ones that have come out.
I'm sorry, Alan.
Movie.
Oh yeah.
And the soundtrack is mean, just some of the best movies, they don't take a whole ton of money to make them. It's just the way the movies are put together, the way the movies are made. I
Well,
mean, Halloween, like I said, the movie wasn't necessarily, and didn't have much money to do it, but they did a good job with it, and it was well put together. And he was responsible, of course, for the soundtrack itself, and that was just simply a 3/4 time method his father taught him when he was a kid.
And let's look at Jaws for its greater impact. The USS Indianapolis was a footnote in history until, I can talk to. I'm a history. I went to school for military history, so I have my degree in my bachelor's in history. And you can be talking to somebody, and there's very few things about World War II history that a lot of people know. And the USS Indianapolis, that there was men in the water that got eaten by sharks, is one of the largest social impacts. It brought new research to. They found the USS Indianapolis because of the people's interest in Jaws. So Jaws as a social fulcrum was very powerful, and I highly respect that for what it was.
Well, and to add to that too, you said great sound. I believe it said great soundtracks help Jaws Halloween. The best ones, and that's a problem I have with most of the movies now as well, is the music should be another character in the movie. It should be like as soon as you think of the movie, you should be able to think of the theme. It like pops right in your head.
Oh yeah.
Or stays there. And I don't get any of that with Junkie XL or Hans Zimmer. I get atmosphere and mood music, and it's instantly forgettable. I can't remember any of the music after I've left the theater.
If they play something like "Dun Dun," you are instantly transported into Jaws. You
recognize it.
You recognize
simple melodies. Yeah,
the Imperial March. It transports you to Empire Strikes Back. You're standing on the bridge with Boba Fett, being told not to disintegrate people.
Yeah, and you can see Vader.
Exactly, and it's those pieces of music, the artistry that pulls you in.
Very important.
I want to mention this here. Outer Limits had a very limited budget, but they told the best sci-fi stories. If you enjoy those, if you come to Loitering in Wonderland, subscribe to Loitering in Wonderland. It's in the comment section. We do what we call anthology review, which is every Wednesday, and we pick a random episode from a random anthology series. And even if the episode's only 25 minutes long, we'll talk about it for like an hour. Breaking those down, what makes it work, what doesn't make it work, what we like about it.
Work on that show. You really do. I really enjoy it.
We're trying to do a thing where we bring back stuff that you might have forgotten. Some of it's held up, some of it hasn't, but it's always fun to talk about, and that's the whole point. So it's fun to go back in time and look at things that you might have overlooked before and see if they hold up or not, or see if maybe most of it's better than what you're already watching. But not all of it. Some of them are hilariously bad. So see here. Manliest Motivation. Welcome back, buddy. We missed you last week. The Punisher 2004 had an awesome score, especially compared to the movie quality-wise. It was very much trying to emulate Ennio Morricone, and I love that guy's soundtracks to death. He makes music that you don't forget, who also made the music for The Untouchables, as well as the Man with No Name trilogy. So
the Untouchables soundtrack was great.
It's great. You always remember it. It sticks with you. In those scenes, like you get this rush of energy, and it fits with the scene that you're watching. And that movie, compared to the real story of Al Capone, is 100% bullshit. Those characters do exist. Like the characters in that movie, those people do exist, except for Sean Connery's character. He was made for the movie. But it's a fairy tale based on actual gangsters, which is what makes it so fun. So it was based on the TV show, not the actual factual stuff.
And pardon me, but the best way I can think of to say it is this. Truly good entertainment is something you don't forget.
Absolutely. Amen. Preach on.
So we'll end it on a good note. I think some days we will live to see entertainment get better, but it's got a lot of bad stuff it still has to go through before it gets
Well, and again, to plug Alan and his venture, with people like them, working hard to transform the industry, I think we're going to be very blessed and very lucky to have them go broad.
And Alan, I want to thank you for coming on the show tonight at such a short
Absolutely
notice.
no problem.
It was wonderful having you on.
Us, Alan.
As we talk about other movies that you love, we'll bring you back for some more commentary.
Yeah, of course.
We'd love to. So,
and folks, like I said, we've got a Facebook group too. Believe me, you're more than welcome. Got some great conversations going on there. Doom Scholar Studios group.
And
right
soon,
on Facebook.
Soon I
he
will
just joined my group today, and I just joined his. So we're there. Yeah. So definitely check that out. And also make sure you check us out tomorrow night. We're doing the Twilight Zone review on Loitering in Wonderland. Then come back this weekend. Friday night is Flair's birthday party. And what we do for our raiders on the birthday party night is we let them pick a double feature. So he can destroy me with whatever 2 movies he decides to pick. And what were those movies again? Or did you already forget?
Enemy Gold and
Andy Sedaris.
20. It was I've got it written down. It's the 2036 Origins. It's a Katie Sackhoff.
Katie Sackhoff joint. You had me a Katie Sackhoff. I'm a huge fan.
Newer sci-fi flick.
There you go.
So, it has ads, I know, but
one of these days, we've been talking about this. We're going to be doing a stream of what we know is a proper, strong female lead to put in your movie, and we've got examples. This is not a new concept. Okay, this is something that has been done way better than the stuff that they're trying to push onto you right now. But
if Captain Marvel is a strong female character, I am the Pope.
All right, Monsignor. Already, make sure you're subscribed to Raiders of the Lost Flicks. Make sure you subscribe to Alan's Facebook group. Get up on there. Check out his stuff. And then, like I said, we'll see you this weekend, 8:30 p.m. It'll be a double feature this weekend. So make sure you join us for that.
Before we take off, recognize Richard Greeter's comment.
Oh, absolutely.
Richard, I would say to you that anime is one of the saving graces of Japan does not give 2 figs about what the West is doing. They are going to make what they want to make, and if you don't like it, they will tell you to get stuffed.
Yeah, that's one thing I appreciate is they don't have any patience with this.
I truly appreciate anime for what it is, and the ability that they have to tell the West to sit on it and rotate.
Anime doesn't worry about being politically correct.
Absolutely.
Right here. This was something I posted in my group today. Actually, it says how a demon slaying film is drawing Japan back to the cinemas. Look at that. It's anime.
That is awesome. And you
want to know how to save the cinema? Give people what they want. They're really that simple. Give people something that they want. Don't tell them what they want. Give them what they actually want.
Yeah.
You don't always know better than your customers. Your customer is always right, and that's something that we get away from nowadays. We think we're supposed to tell the customers what they're supposed to like, and the more you do it, the more we resist. That's all I'm going to say about that for this episode.
Please the customer, they will spend money on you.
I want to thank my chat, Leo Red, Richard Greeter, Flair X, Bill Leavitt, Richard Greeter. I mentioned Richard Greeter already, didn't I? Okay. I just want to make sure I don't miss any. Manliness Motivation. Thank you so much for joining us in the chat tonight. I know
thank you, chat. Thank you, Alan.
It's crazy. I wasn't expecting anybody to show up tonight because it's an election eve. Don't make sure you don't forget to do that thing tomorrow. I'm sure you're not going to forget because everybody's going to constantly remind you until you can't breathe anymore that you should probably go vote if you haven't done so already. But
I already took care of that. I'm just going to to disappear from sight for a day or two. I don't want
You should, as you should.
about this.
Be careful out there, folks.
Yeah,
And,
be safe, folks.
rest in peace, Sean Connery. We will miss you greatly. And like I said, make sure you come back this weekend for Flair X's birthday party. It's going to be crazy. Crazy. All right. We'll see you later, folks. Have a nice week.
Night,
be careful out there.
Good night, all.
Folks.
Thanks for watching this video. I hope you found it somewhat entertaining. Please remember to depress that like button and subscribe to my channel for more content. Make sure you hit that bell icon so you'll be the first to know when new content is published. Please visit raidersofthelostflicks.com for more hilarious entertainment and links to all of our social media platforms. Also, consider supporting us on Patreon. As little as $1 a month supports our worldwide digs for more Lost Flicks. Thank you, and have a groovy day.